This is a story about throwing up, or rather, a series of stories about throwing up. And ironically, I'm going to start off with the story about me not throwing up, thankfully. So recently, I went to a friend's birthday event where they served sashimi as the main meal for dinner. And that's basically all I ate was just raw fish and a little bit of rice. And I might have made the mistake of perhaps eating seconds, 30 minutes after it was laid out. So I don't know if that's enough time for bacteria to grow in fish, raw fish or whatever. I should probably look that up. But either way, my stomach felt very, very weird when I tried to sleep that night. And I woke up around 3 a.m. trying to throw up, actually. I pretty much just gave into it. Back then, I would resist a lot, but this time I just was ready. But luckily, it didn't happen. I just needed to sit up for a while because laying down hurt my stomach more. So I laid up, stood up, and sat up, and eventually something settled in my stomach where the food decided to go down instead of up, which I was very thankful for. It did take a very long time, and it still felt very uncomfortable to lay down, so I basically got no sleep that night. So I couldn't do much other than try to rest until my Friendsgiving event, which is very unfortunate, but I still had a lot of fun in my Friendsgiving event. Anyways, let's actually talk about why I felt comfortable throwing up, or at least ready to throw up. It was because this year there was an event. It was my friend's match day event. A match day is just for doctors when they get matched to their residency. And what happened was we actually did eat raw fish again. It was a sushi place. I still love sushi. I'm not trying to say like don't eat it, but like maybe this time around it had some sort of bacteria on the specific ones that 3 of my friends ate. It was 3 out of the 6 that ended up, well, actually, one of them got diarrhea and then 3 threw up. I was one of the 3. And the total irony of the event for doctors is that it was a super spreader event for COVID as well. So 3 of my friends got COVID. Luckily, I didn't get COVID. I don't even know how I didn't get COVID, but I tested multiple times and it was negative. But I still experienced the worst throwing up ever in my life. Basically, the only way I could describe it was I woke up in the middle of the night again and my stomach felt a lot of pain. And this time around, I resisted, but I should not have. Because the more I resisted, the more it hurt, and eventually it just happened anyways. So I threw up and it was really bad because it was the first time I ever screamed while throwing up, I believe. Usually, I would make noises, I would groan and throwing up and everything, but I actually legit screamed while throwing up, and everything that came out of me was like black. It was the darkest, most pitch black throw up I've ever had in my life. And that's not saying too much since I don't really throw up very often, but it happened 3 different points in the night, and each time felt pretty much as bad as the others. Just this burning sensation in your throat and feeling really, really ill and weak and just hating life. 2 of my other friends had a similar experience in the sense that it was just really, really bad. One of them actually projectile vomited out of nowhere multiple times in the day. I'm lucky that it wasn't as bad as that. And then another friend also had something similar where he felt like he was being exorcised, like a demon was coming out of him. Definitely one of the worst experiences and memorable experiences that I've had while throwing up. And speaking of memory, let's actually talk about the first time I remember throwing up. I don't know why, it was just a very, very vivid experience. I had some Chinese food with my family. This was like when I was super young, like maybe 8 years old. And I remember eating fried fish. The taste of fried fish was very, very prevalent in my mouth. And I remember that night being cold as well. It was dusk when we went back home, and I just felt my stomach getting weirder and weirder. And once I arrived back home at night before sleeping, I just threw up into the sink, actually. The first time I just threw up into the sink instead of the toilet because I just didn't know where to throw up, and it came out of nowhere. And I remembered that taste of fried fish in my mouth. And I really liked fried fish, but after that experience, I just did not eat it for a while. But it definitely felt really bad, and that's pretty much the extent to how much I remember it. Following that, I do remember another time my cousin was eating a lot of spaghetti. Then our grandma forced him to drink a lot of water. Then we went over to my place, we hung out, did some stuff, and then he said, "I don't feel so good." And I saw him in front of the restroom, projectile vomit all over the floor, and most of it was like water with just a little bit of spaghetti in it. This was also when we were kids, so it was just like a very vivid memory, and I was like, oh my god, I can't believe like that just happened. And luckily, I think there's only one more story about how throwing up really sucked. And it wasn't even me throwing up. So basically what happened, we were at an Airbnb with some friends. And for me, I don't drink, but my friends do. So we were just having a good time. And I told them, guys, just be careful. We're in Airbnb. Try not to drink too much because that could cause throwing up. Of course, nobody listened. And 3 or 4 people ended up throwing up that night. One thing I learned is that if a friend says that they're okay right after they're throwing up, you should stay and watch them and don't listen to them because they are not okay, because one of them just fell asleep at the toilet after throwing up and locked the doors, so we just had to get it open somehow. But that really wasn't the worst of it. The worst of it was that one of them ended up throwing up on the bed sheets at night, and nobody decided to take responsibility and try to wash the bed sheets. So by the time we had to leave the next morning, we just left thrown up bed sheets in the washer for the cleaning people to find. And I had no idea that that's what happened. And guess what? I happened to be the one who rented out that Airbnb. That was the first time I used Airbnb. So the owner actually messaged me and told me about this hole in the wall that she found. And I told her, oh, that can't be us, because I asked everyone and they said, oh, like they did not create that hole. So I told her that, and then later, about maybe like 30 minutes or so, one of the guys ended up confessing that it was actually them. What happened was they were so drunk still, even in the morning, that they lost their balance at the stairs and just tackled the wall with their shoulder and made a giant hole. So being the one that put down the deposit and everything, I felt kind of worried that we would have to pay a lot more and it would come out of my pocket. This was also in my early 20s when I was still really concerned about these sort of things. So all of this was happening while we were at an escape room, maze rooms actually, Sky Odyssey, which was a really, really fun experience. But I had to dissociate. I just had to do my best not to worry about the Airbnb stuff. But luckily, they sorted it out. He ended up having to pay for it, not me, luckily. And that was pretty much the end of that story. I'm pretty sure there are more stories about throwing up, but those were the most memorable ones as of right now. And for me, this is also a way of just giving somewhat of an excuse for being kind of out of it for the past 2 days. I haven't quite worked on music since then, but I am gonna get back into it today. And I also wanted to try to just make this a voiceover, since I've been doing voiceover on Fiverr, and I've been enjoying it more than being in front of the camera. For whatever reason, when there's a microphone placed in front of me, I just feel like I talk better and more naturally versus having a camera in front of me. It's kind of strange, but hopefully eventually I get better with that as well, with the camera, and get more used to it. But for now, occasionally I just want to make some videos for fun like this one. This one's just more like a story video, and I feel like I very much enjoy making these types of videos, so I'll probably do more of these. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the random stories about throwing up in my life. Let me know if you have any interesting throw up stories down below. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one.